Story 1. The Echoes in the Walls. In 1994, a young couple, Sarah and Tim, moved into a modest, century-old home in a small Midwestern town. The house was charming but had an eerie quality. There were persistent noises coming from the walls, tapping, shuffling, and even faint whispers late at night. At first, they thought it was old pipes or rodents, but the sounds seemed too human. One night, Sarah was home alone while Tim worked late. She heard the tapping again, but this time, it was rhythmic, almost like Morse code. Furious and unnerved, she pressed her ear to the wall. She was met with a chilling whisper, clear as day, "Help me." Terrified, she backed away. When Tim got home, they both tried to rationalize it, but the sounds intensified over the following days. They called an exterminator, convinced there were animals trapped in the walls. The exterminator confirmed something much more sinister. In the basement, he found a hidden crawlspace behind a false wall. Inside were dozens of old Polaroid photos showing children bound and gagged, along with their decaying remains. The previous owner, a quiet, unassuming man who had died years ago, had been a serial killer who lured kids into his home. The children's spirits had been trapped in the walls, trying to reach out for help for decades. The couple fled the house that night, but Sarah never fully escaped the trauma. She claims that every once in a while, even in their new home, she still hears faint whispers in the dark. Story 2. The Silent Hitchhiker. In 1978, a man named Robert was driving alone on a desolate stretch of highway in the Nevada desert. It was late, nearly midnight, and there were no other cars in sight for miles. As he drove, he noticed a figure on the side of the road, a woman, standing still, with her thumb out. Robert pulled over, thinking it was strange to see anyone out here in the middle of nowhere. The woman silently opened the car door and got in, her face pale and expressionless. She didn't say a word. Robert tried to make small talk, but she remained silent, staring ahead. After a few miles, Robert grew uncomfortable. He noticed something even stranger. Her feet weren't touching the floor of the car. Her hands were unnaturally stiff, and her skin appeared to be decaying. Suddenly, she turned to face him, her eyes hollow and sunken. Her mouth opened slowly, and a barely audible rasp escaped. "You shouldn't have stopped." Terrified, Robert slammed on the brakes, and the woman vanished, leaving behind only the faintest smell of rot. Shaken, he sped off, vowing never to pick up another hitchhiker again. The next morning, when he stopped at a gas station, Robert shared his story with the attendant, who grew pale. The attendant explained that a woman matching the hitchhiker's description had been murdered on that same stretch of road years ago. She had been known to haunt the highway, seeking a ride from unsuspecting drivers. Those who ignored her would be safe, but those who stopped were never seen again. Robert barely escaped, but others weren't so lucky. In the months following, several drivers mysteriously vanished, their cars found abandoned on the same stretch of highway, with no trace of the driver inside.